United Nations commend President Muhammadu Buhari on Kankara rescue.
National Judicial Council recommends 2 judges for compulsory retirement.
And towards meeting January 2021 train operations deadline from Apapa Port to Ibadan, Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi inspects progress of work.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the reopening of Nigeria's land borders.
All right, so Nigeria consumes about 2 million tons of poultry meat annually, with 70% of the products smuggled into the country. Now, those are figures before the closure of our land border with neighboring countries.
That's right, Claire. Now, the figures you've just mentioned are replicated with regard to other products or agricultural produce as smugglers engage in illicit activities of smuggling in contraband into the country and thereby perpetrating economic sabotage, which of course is detrimental to the nation's economy and development.
Indeed, Kingsley, and of course the widespread insecurity arising, from the large catch of arms and light weapons smuggled, from time to time into the country and intercepted through the same land borders. Also, it's a weighty issue for the country, and of course we wouldn't fold our arms and watch that development persist.
Certainly, Claire, and so in August 2019, that was last year, and for 16 months, the federal government closed Nigeria's land borders to surmount those challenges confronting its economy and security.
Now, the 16 months of land border closure saw the nation witnessing the hues and cries from different quarters over the burden cast on users and of the land corridors and gateways. Of course, adding that this is an attempt to stifle business or discourage manufacturers from selling their goods. Kingsley, of course, the issues that came up. Quite a number of people commended, especially the All Farmers Association, commended the land closure, while others, have some...
There's no question about that. I mean, there were disparate positions initially on the border closure, with claims that it was going to stifle exports. It was also going to impede the flow of needed raw materials that sometimes get shipped into the country through neighboring ports in other countries. But clearly, the argument that the federal government had with regard to the smuggling of contraband, and more particularly the flow of illicit light arms and small weapons, those arguments were pretty sound, and there's no question about it that in the course of the closure of the borders, Nigeria was of course able to achieve some milestones in seeking to attenuate the flow of contraband goods as well as illegal weapons into the country. A number of neighbors, of course, also kicked against this, if you recall. And at some point, even though it seemed not to have been an official position, there was a demand for a quid pro quo. Ghana, for instance, was saying that the treatment they were meting out to Nigerian traders by locking up their shops would only be reprieved if Nigeria reopened her borders. Of course, Nigeria doesn't have immediate borders with Ghana. You have to go past Benin Republic and then Togo. But there is no question about it that trade across the West African coast, of course, emanates largely from Nigeria. And a number of those imports that were also coming in breach of required ECOWAS protocols were indeed aimed at the Nigerian market, all of which resulted in dumping with severe economic consequences.
And so after several months, precisely, I think it's about 16 months, 16 months of land border closure, we're wondering, Nigerian government finally, of course, gave the nod for the reopening of 4 of those borders, of course, on December 16, 2020, with plans to reopen other border crossing on before December 31st. And just to mention those borders that have been reopened, they include Seme border, that's of course in the southwest. There's also the Ilela and the Matagari also.
And there's another one on the side, on the eastern side with Cameroon. That's right, no question about that. But there are key issues that, of course, we still need to explore. But do we now have an assurance that the reasons that led to the border closure have been sufficiently dealt with, not just by Nigeria, but also by our neighbors? And is this now going to be an open season, as it were, for the importation of all kinds of goods and products from different parts of the world, considering, Claire, as we are saying, that there's been a spike, of course, in the prices of goods in Nigeria. So we have seen the inflationary pressure already coming on. Would that not be a rationale for smugglers or whoever the business persons are to say, all right, so let's go to around the corners of the world and bring in goods, which of course will result in dumping, with consequences also for local manufacturing capacity. And
not to forget that Nigeria has also ratified the African Free Trade Zone area, which is also another pointer, to why the border should be open. And there's so many issues that have come out of this land border closure, and people have also advanced different reasons why the borders should be open. So many questions, and that will form the first leg of our conversation today on Good Morning Nigeria. Kingsley, you've got the second leg.
That's right. There's also a second topic that we are dealing with, and that has to do with the integrated gas handling facility of the NNPC. So that's, of course, it's a subsidiary of the NNPC. That's the Nigerian National Petroleum Development Company. It's an integrated facility, and it's intended to deliver on the federal government's gas utilization agenda. So that's our outlook for this morning. Two topics, by the way: the reopening of the land borders and the integrated gas facility that is soon to be launched.
It's on that note, I welcome you once again to the very first edition of Good Morning Nigeria this week, festive week. My name is Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. Thank you for joining us as always.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire to also welcome you to the program. We're live, as always, on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, and we're broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. We have our regular complimentary segments, and these include business and newspaper review. Let's now join Nolene Lebelame for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Nolene.
Good morning, Kingsley and Claire. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the news. We begin the news with attempted kidnap of some Hizbrahim Islamia students. Security operatives foiled the attempt to abduct 80 pupils of an Islamia school in Mahuta village of Dandume local government area of Katsina State. The Katsina Police Command says security agents are still searching the forest for possible arrest of the bandits who escaped with bullet wounds. All the rescued pupils have been handed over to their parents.
And I directed the area commander Funtua to mobilize available policemen with him, PUF-ADA, PMF men, the military, and then the vigilante men. So they gave them a hot chest, and in the gun bottle that ensured they were forced to abandon not only the 4 people they earlier kidnapped at Tampaure, and the cows also they stole. Okay. They also, in the confusion, could not go along with those puppies from that Islamia school. Okay. And all of them were rescued.
In the meantime, the United Nations has commended the efforts of the Buhari-led administration in the rescue operations that led to the release of the abducted Kankara schoolboys. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said this in a message released by his spokesperson to the United Nations in New York.
On the 17th of December, some of the children who were abducted from a secondary school in Katsina State, Nigeria, on the 11th of December. He commends the swift action taken by the Nigerian authorities to rescue the children and calls for the immediate and unconditional release of those who remain abducted. He stresses the importance that the released children and their families are provided with the necessary health and psychosocial support. The Secretary General calls for increased efforts to safeguard schools and educational facilities in the country. and reiterates the solidarity and commitment of the United Nations to supporting the government and people of Nigeria in their fight against terrorism, violent extremism, and organized crime.
Similarly, the front runner for the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, also described the return of the schoolboys as a wonderful news, adding that it is time to revive the Return to Safe School initiative, implemented comprehensively to protect the Nigerian children. The Nigerian Army has continued its build-up to confront all threats to Nigerian internal and external security. To this end, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has inaugurated and inducted new artillery gun and equipment for immediate deployment to the theater in the northeast.
You can also see some of the special projects that the Chief of Army Staff have just commissioned. And it's more concerned about the working environment of both officers and soldiers as a determining factor of their performance.
And from the judiciary, the National Judicial Commission, NJC, has recommended the compulsory retirement of 2 judicial officers and dismissed petitions against 18 others. The council also recommended the appointment of 69 judicial officers. The 2 officers recommended for compulsory retirement are Grand Qadi Shuaibu Talba, the Grand Qadi of Yobe State, and Justice Abdul Karim Babatunde Abdurazak of Osun State High Court. Both were recommended for retirement following petitions against them alleging falsification of age and dates of birth. Council also considered the report of the interview committee and recommended the appointment of 69 judicial officers as heads of court, judges of High Court of States, Qadis of States, FCT Sharia Courts of Appeal, and judges of the customary courts of appeal. No form of delay or setback will be tolerated from persons or terminal operators towards meeting up the January 2020 inauguration of train operations from Apapa ports to Ibadan. Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi sounded this note of caution while inspecting the project in Lagos State and also appealed for a more concerted efforts from all key players.
Critical is that we must find a solution to the gridlock. The moment we begin to move cargoes from the seaport to at least Ibadan, then the pressure on Lagos will reduce drastically.
So you must walk around the timetable and the agreed lane of the tracks. It's not for you to decide.
And now to update on COVID-19 cases in Nigeria. 501 new COVID-19 infections have been confirmed in Nigeria within the past 24 hours. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control says the new infections were discovered in 14 states and the FCT, bringing the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Nigeria to 78,434. Lagos State has 218 of the new cases. 112 are in FCT, 53 in Kaduna, 24 in Plateau, and 21 in Katsina. Kano has 16 new cases, 14 in Yobe, 10 in Ondo, 9 in Ogun, 7 in Edo, 5 in Bayelsa, 4 each in Rivers and Borno states, while Osun and Ekiti states have 2 new cases each. 68,303 have been treated and discharged, while the death toll has risen to 1,221. The Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Bashir Mohammed, says the Commission is adopting new strategies in providing care to migrants who have returned but still at refugee centers across the country in the face of second wave of coronavirus. The Federal Commissioner stated this while briefing journalists on the 2020 Migration Dialogue in Abuja.
I would like to reiterate that the plight of persons of concern is one that causes so much heartbreak and sleepless nights to all Nigerians. That's why at the peak of the lockdown, we worked day and night to get across to the most vulnerable of our population.
That's the morning news. The program continues with Kinsley and Claire after this break. I am Nolin Evel Ame. Good morning.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. The creation of 75 billion naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths, and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survivor Fund, through which government is A. Paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. Paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. Giving a grant of 30,000 naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the product of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic. Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency.
You clean your teeth every morning, but that fresh breath feeling just doesn't last. The answer? Easy. You keep your teeth strong and healthy and give your mouth long-lasting fresh breath with new Oral-B 2-in-1 toothpaste. It helps strengthen your teeth and gives you long-lasting fresh breath.
So fresh, still fresh, and still fresh.
Stay strong, stay fresh. New Oral-B toothpaste for strong teeth and long-lasting fresh breath.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool!
Wow!
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news, and here is our correspondent, Chimobi Watanaji.
Since the president made the pronouncement on his intention to lift 100 Nigerians out of poverty, a lot of conscious efforts has been put in place to achieve this. They include the introduction of 75 billion naira MSME Survival Fund embedded inside the 2.3 trillion naira Economic Sustainability Fund.
As a young person myself, I know what it is like to desire to create a career for yourself that you would be proud of.
This time, another 25 young professionals are being engaged by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment through the Commodities Export Department and the Young Professionals Program to build the capacity of young people in meeting the challenges of emerging economies.
The CEDYP is designed for young officers in the department who have proven potentials and have passions for national development, passion to be mentored, and can acquire relevant professional experience that will aid them to grow into impactful leaders. It is my belief that programs like the Young Professionals will play a significant role in filling knowledge gaps where it exists in the system. In today's digital world, multiplicity as well as diversity of talents are required for the work that needs to be done with high velocity of change around us.
These 25 people are among the first phase of the engagements, as the initiative will help fill the gap of manpower development and open the young people to international opportunities.
With business news, I'm Chimobi Watanaji.
All right, Chimobi, thank you for the business package. Coming up next on the program is Newspaper Review.
All right, it's time for Newspaper Review, and Bayo Atoyebe, our Newspaper Reviewer, is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Claire.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. All right, let's begin with the Punch newspaper. Punch above the nameplate, right to the bottom. So you have a number of stories on the front page there dealing with coronavirus. That's the lead story, by the way, but let's go above the name flag. It says food prices rising and household incomes precarious. That's attributed to the Bureau of Statistics, with details on page 32. Kankara schoolboys rescue. Presidency alliance with army contradicts Masari. That's page 11. CBN revokes 42 microfinance banks operating licenses. The federal government records 1.29 trillion naira fiscal deficit in 3 months. And the earpiece there, which is beside the name flag, also shows in numbers the coronavirus cases. As at now, Nigeria has recorded over 78,000, out of whom 68,000 persons have been discharged. But the death toll is climbing. Now, total deaths recorded 1,221, and there were a number of deaths that were reported over the weekend. These are prominent persons. I'm sure Bayo will get into details of those. Globally, you have 75 million cases confirmed, and now almost 1.7 million persons who have died from it. Lead story says states plan tough enforcement as new COVID-19 cases surge. Details on page 2, and there are 4 riders to that headline. Lagos says it can't afford fresh lockdown. Begins 20,000 naira fine enforcement today. 15 management staff undergo COVID-19 test today as NIPS Director General dies. Niger lawmakers isolate as Speaker and Clerk test positive. Ogun promises stringent protocols. The photograph there on the front page shows the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine being prepared for shipment at a distribution center in Mississippi, U.S., and that was yesterday. Security tops agenda as North Central governors meet today. Another 4 killed in southern Kaduna fresh attacks. How military and police rescued 80 abducted Islamic students. And that's the story according to the Defense Headquarters, with details on page 11. Claire.
Okay, Kinsley, you've almost said all the stories trending also in the Daily Trust newspaper. But let's give you some of the different captions. The lead story, it says second wave, low testing as COVID-19 ravages states. And the 3 riders there say only 0.4% of Nigerians tested since February. Test costs 50,000 naira in private clinics. And NIPS DG dies, Niger Speaker and more VIPs in isolation. And the picture story of the rescued students of Hizburahim Islamia School at Mauta Village in Katsina on the front page there. 80 abducted Islamia students, 4 others rescued in Katsina. Now, trending at the foot of the paper, NJC recommends sack of UB Grand Kadi or High Court on page 7. And 2 killed by hit-and-run drivers in Abuja, page 28. 3 killed, monarch abducted as bandits set Niger village ablaze. And a little below the nameplate, Daily Trust economists to federal government, woo investors in agric trade, others to reflate economy. And chaos at airports over flight disruptions is also trending just below the nameplate there, and you can read up the details of that on page 11. That's the outlook of the Daily Trust this morning. Bayo.
Well, let's start with the human interest story about the 80 Islamia peoples who were returning from their Maulud Nabi celebration, and they were abducted at Ongwar Al-Kasimu. They were heading towards Dandume. Upon receiving the distress call, all security were alert. The police, DPO mobilized his men, the army, the operations provider were there, and Sharandaji. So also were the vigilante group. And this is what everybody's been saying. When there is cooperation, success becomes a lot more easier. They dislodged the bandits and rescued the 80 Islamic peoples who were coming. Earlier, the bandits had actually abducted 4 persons and 12 cows in the Funtua village, Dambaure village. They were all rescued. And such parties have followed them up in a mop-up operation. Meanwhile, it's no longer news that the 344 students of GSS Kankara rescued have returned to their families. Parents hugged and cuddled their wards when released to them. One parent, Alaji Isa Kankara, said, "We remain grateful to Allah and all who contributed." When he was out on whether his son will go back to school, he said, "What happened to students was destiny. It could have happened to them anywhere." Another, Madam Abubakar Zaria, had 2 students among those that were abducted. He said he relocated from Zaria to Kankara and remained there until they were invited to Katsina. On their return to school, he said, well, education is very paramount, and therefore he will not hesitate for them to return if adequate security measures are taken to safeguard their security. Parents were asked to identify their ward on the photo parade at the JSS Kankara before they were advised to proceed to Katsina. Upon identifying the student will confirm that this is my parent before they were released to them, and the hugs and cuddling began. Governors under the agencies of the Progressive Governors Forum said they will ensure and work in harmony, irrespective of party lines, to restore peace at all levels across the country. The chairman of the Forum and Governor of Kebbi State says that Nigeria belongs to all Nigerians, and it must be secured as an indivisible and indissoluble sovereign entity under God. While they joined in congratulating about the rescue of the students, he says that the operation shows that security requires a united resolution of all and also prompt response. He called on all Nigerians to rise to this responsibility and work effectively with the security, and so that we could give a collective response to problems that, and as a united people. They call on the security to also reinforce their capacity to protect lives and property, assuring that as elected leaders, they will continue to work with the president and bring an end to this new phase of insecurity that's prevailing across the nation. The governors of North Central too are of concern about security. They are converging at Makurdi today, and the topic they are going to focus on is also security. It may be recalled that they met early in the year at Lafia when they also perfected their plans for community policing, which they say is a strategy that they will use to take policing to the grassroots. They will also look at the economy. However, they are concerned about COVID-19 and the recession, which they say it has affected the mainstay of the economy in the North Central, particularly the mainstay in the North Central is agriculture. A female suicide bomber on Saturday killed 3 and injured 7 when he sneaked and detonated along Konduga. Also, 35 commuters who were traveling to Maiduguri, and they were struggling to beat the 6 p.m. deadline. Around 5:30, they noticed that fire was burning ahead. They thought it was a bushfire, not knowing that it was hoodlums, terrorists that have set a truck ablaze. Unfortunately, they ran into the ambush, and information has it that they have been abducted. On COVID-19, the alarm is on. The reported spike of COVID-19 has been on the increase. Let's just do a quick glance back. On December 16th, we had 930 cases. On 17th, 1,145 cases. On 18th, it came down to 806. On 19th, it was 920. Yesterday, we have 501. So far, we have had a total of 78,434 cases in Nigeria. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control say that this sudden increase which is prevalent in Lagos, Kaduna, and FCT, and also the pattern is that it is prevalent among youths between the age of 21 and 30. The DG NCDC says the trend is very, very worrying because there's a tendency that these young people who may not be affected will carry this disease home to their elderly parents who could be fatally victims of COVID-19. So the panacea to this is that a return to non-pharmaceutical measures.
Yeah, there's no question about that. The headlines I read and the writers from the Punch indicated what measures various state governments would take and are taking. But I think that we also have to try and understand, that's to say the experts now, including the Presidential Task Force, the NCDC, and all those who are concerned with managing the pandemic in Nigeria. We have to try and understand the causative factors of the latest spike and we'll reach out to other jurisdictions to understand what is also playing out and lessons to learn. Already, it's been said that a new strain of the coronavirus has been discovered in Britain.
Yes, United Kingdom.
In the United Kingdom.
Yes.
And a number of countries have already started taking measures against the UK. Germany, Belgium, Italy, they are all banning flights coming from the United Kingdom into their own countries. What are we doing here in Nigeria? Are we allowing aircraft with passengers to still be coming in from the United Kingdom where a new strain of coronavirus has been discovered? And what protocols do we have for detecting or ascertaining whether persons are COVID-19 free upon arrival in Nigeria? There have been reports, as to some underhand dealings with persons getting certificates claiming that they are coronavirus free when they have not undergone the rigorous test. If you recall, at the very beginning, in February, one of the misses that we had, according to some observers, was that we should have shut our borders much earlier, that's to say our international airspace much earlier, after we had that index case that came in from Italy.
From Italy.
Yeah, well, we know we created a window of about a week or two, and persons were pouring in from all corners of the globe. And before we knew it, the figures were climbing. And here we are, England and the rest of Britain have not been reported as having a new strain. What is our response to that?
In fact, it's so critical that in southeast London and all those areas, the state of alert has been increased from phase 3 to phase 4.
That's right.
And that has increased the limitation of movements. This is the measures that are taken because of the critical thing. And here back in Nigeria, Kaduna State was the first to identify that they have observed that the latest surge in COVID-19 was between the age bracket of 10 to 35. So it has gone as lower than what the DG NCDC has said. And therefore, we must be very, very alert. And there's no gainsaying the fact that there's a possibility that the new strain is already strained here.
We must also encourage ourselves to comply with the non-pharmaceutical measures. That way we'll be helping ourselves as well. Bayo, we've taken much of our time today, so thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow. As usual. All right. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, the network service of the NTA. Don't forget, our conversation today is based on the reopening of our land borders and the other one on the gas handling facility just launched in Oredo, Edo State. Or relaunched in Edo State. Don't go away. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat-trick today.
Cool!
Wow!
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest asset the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth Entrepreneurship Support Years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
In my house, we may look alike, but we are very different individuals. My adorable twins, they look so alike, but they don't like wearing the same things. And my little man, I had to find out the hard way because I've been trying to teach him my way. He loves to learn his own way because doing things his way is more fulfilling. Everybody believes their way is best. That's why Golden Penny Pasta is our favorite meal because due to its non-stickiness, it allows me to satisfy everybody just the way they want it.
Golden Penny Pasta, made with durum wheat, is tasty, nutritious, a source of protein and fiber, and non-sticky. So you can cook, serve, and eat your pasta just the way you like it. Go on and enjoy your Golden Penny Pasta the way you want it. With Golden Penny Pasta, your way is best.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake. Unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Do you know that 35% of every girl child and women are raped on daily basis? Some are killed in the process, some take their lives in shame, others remain emotionally dead for life. It is sad. This culture is not ours, definitely not African. How did we allow bad culture to infiltrate and take over? Even if you lack fear for the law, what of fear of God? And you, why do you cover up rape acts when it happens? Remember, a problem shared is a problem half solved. Never cover any rape act because a rapist is a murderer. It could be you or your loved ones next. Women must be treated like the prize gem they are. Say no to rape.
We are still watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, before we get ahead with our conversation on the reopening of Nigeria's land borders, let's listen into this report put together by our economic correspondent, Kunle Adeyeye.
Nigeria's land borders were closed in August 2019 to check smuggling of light arms and other goods classified as contrabands. The federal government at its Executive Council meeting on December 16 approved the immediate reopening of 4 major land borders in Nigeria. The 4 borders are Seme in the southwest part of the country, Ilela in the northwest, Maitagari also in the northwest, and Mfun in the south-south. The federal government consequently reiterated that others still under closure will be reopened on or before 31st of December 2020. The reopening of the 4 borders, however, is not without a caveat, which is the ban on importation of rice, poultry products and other banned products still subsists and will be enforced by the Joint Border Patrol Team. With the African Continental Free Trade Area, which Nigeria is signatory to, taking off next year, Nigerian borders undoubtedly will be busier. Alluding to the fact that Nigeria's market remains the largest in Africa, the managers of the country's borders, especially the Nigeria's Customs Service, has pledged to execute its primary functions of securing the borders with due diligence over the expected intensified commercial activities at the borders. Many questions yearning for answers are: can we say the primary aim of closing the border has been achieved? Will this decision help keep in check the security challenges in the country? Will the reopening of the borders improve Nigeria economic activities? Guests are seated to provide answers to these and many more on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, Kunle Adeyeye giving us a background report to kickstart our conversation. All our guests are ready, so let me quickly introduce all of them. Let me welcome Zainab Ahmed, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, joining us via Zoom. Honorable Minister, thank you for joining us this morning on the program.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Nigeria.
And also joining us via Zoom from Lagos is Ambassador Ayo Lukomi, Director General, Nigeria Association of Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture.
For having me. Good morning, Nigeria, and good morning to Nigerians.
Thank you very much. We also have joining us via Zoom from Lagos, Chief Eric Umelfia, is President and CEO Erisco Foods Limited. Chief Eric Umelfia, Erisco, as you are popularly called, pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, and then here with us in the Abuja studios, we'd like to also welcome Dr. Ken Ukoha. He's a lawyer and president, National Association of Nigerian Traders. Dr. Ukoha, I'd like to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much, Kinsley. Thanks, Nigerians.
Okay. All right, so let's begin the conversation with the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hajia Zainab Ahmed. Honorable Minister, 16 months after Nigeria's land borders were closed, at least 4 of them have now been reopened with a promise to reopen some others on or before December 31st. That's in under 10 days. The Nigerian government consider it appropriate at this time to reopen the borders? And if so, what was the signaling that warranted the decision?
Well, good morning, Gerald. It's been a long time since the borders were opened. And also remember that the reason for opening the borders is to get Nigeria and its neighbors, Benin and Niger, to conform to protocols that were committed to under the ECOWAS liberalization scheme. So this border opening closure had helped us to come together as neighbors and actually on the 3 sides be able to respect those protocols. The border closure has helped us to reduce the incidence of the human trafficking, bringing of light arms, and also significantly reduce the practice of bringing in drugs into our country, as well as bringing in other goods and products that have negative impact in our economy. The border closure was not meant to be punitive to any of the economies of the 3 countries. We believe that the purpose that was intended to be achieved has been achieved, and also it's been negatively impactful on the economies of our neighbors, and it has also affected the Nigerian economy. Because let's remember that if you look at the economy of this region, 70% of it is the Nigerian economy. So Nigerian businesses also were affected by this border closure. And as we try to revive the economy and make sure that businesses stabilize and grow, we needed to have the borders open so that there will be free movement of trade against in and out of our country. And also to respect the ECOWAS liberalization protocols that we signed to, and the African Continental Free Trade Zone Agreement that we also assented to, which will take effect, by the way, 1st January 2021. We needed to have the borders open and also now put into practical use the discipline that has been acquired during this process. The joint patrol team between Nigeria and its neighbors is still in place, and we're all committed to continuing to work together. And the Nigerian Border Patrol team, which is a cross-section of key ministries, key agencies that have responsibility for border control, are also asked to remain together and continue the work the way they have been doing it. But also, as we announced, that the ban on importation of rice still subsists, the ban on importation of poultry still subsists, and the ban of all banned products and items still subsist, because we still have the overarching responsibility to protect Nigerian businesses, even as we have a responsibility to allow movement of goods in and out of our country. So we believe this will be useful for the Nigerian economy, that it will help businesses that have been impacted because they are not able to bring in either their inputs or take out their products to our neighboring countries. It will also help to make business of the ports and the land borders a lot much easier than it has been. It will also improve the ease of movement of people across our borders, following the protocols that have been committed to by the 3 countries.
Honorable Minister, thank you. Without meaning to overlabor you, I'd like for you to maybe outline the principal reason for the border closure and what we have achieved or what we achieved within the period of closure so far.
Why was the border closed? The border was closed to enhance our capacity to curtail the prevalence of illegalities around our borders, and also to be able to positively impact key sectors of the Nigerian economy, especially the oil and gas sector, the agricultural sector, but also industry and a few others. The policy measures that have been taken have been proven to significantly curtail the activities of smugglers, the regular movement of immigrants, and also to curtail the coming in into our country of different types of criminality, and especially small arms. This border closure has also helped us to be able to work more closely with the land border communities, and also the marine border routes have the people are living around the marine border routes. The overriding benefits of the effect or the effectiveness of the border control to economic development and national security is very, very significant. But it's significant, but it's the importance of it has to do with the importance of the sovereignty of our country, because our country was threatened by a lot of this illegal and irregular movements across our borders. The benefits that have been achieved, initially we had seen some surge in terms of revenues collections by the Nigerian customs, but that went down because that was never the intention, was just consequences. But there was significant reduction in the imports of, in the illegal entry of people, illegal entry of small arms, and especially illegal entry of drugs, illicit drugs that is causing a lot of havoc to our country. We have produced, the president set up a committee which I chair with my colleagues, ministers of foreign affairs, interior, and trade, industry, and investment, but also immigration and the Nigerian Customs Service. And our advice to Mr. President is that these borders should be open, that the purposes for which the borders were closed have been largely achieved, and also that we needed to respect the ETLS protocols, the ECOWAS protocols that we committed to on free movement of trades, and also that the AFCFTA is coming on stream in 1st of January, and we have also assented to it, which means we've committed to have our borders open. And remember that Nigeria is the most industrialized region within this ECOWAS scheme, and we have up to about 2,500 indigenous companies with about 7,000 products. And the estimate that is made is about 60% of the total number of companies under the scheme have been affected by this border closure. So we needed to have these borders open so that businesses can go back to operating more normally, and we recommended Mr. President to have, first of all, agree that the four major land borders be opened, and they have been opened already, but that by 31st of December, all of the remaining borders need to be open. But also we are going to intensify the diplomatic efforts that we have been undertaking to make sure that there are there's no undue strain between ourselves and our borders, and that the joint border patrol teams that we have with our neighbors remain operational and functional, as well as that each of the three countries has committed to enforcing the conditions that have been agreed prior to the reopening of the borders. On our own part, we are sustaining the operation swift response, which is this joint interagency teams that we put together that will be continuously patrolling the borders, and also special effort to make sure that all major identified illegal borders are also manned and patrolled. We are using a technology that is called the meters to be able to process movement of goods and people across our country. And then also we're strengthening the government agencies that have this specific responsibility and also supporting them with adequate funding so that they're able to carry out this joint border operations on an ongoing basis. Modern facilities is being provided to make sure that the control of the borders is not just manual, but that it's also automated. That we are going to be using drones and other security devices to be able to support the agencies that have this statutory responsibility to man the borders more effectively and more efficiently, and also to secure our country and preserve its sovereignty.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Finance. We're going to have to pause you now. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's come back now to our Abuja studios, where we will introduce Dr. Ken Ukoha, President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. Ken Ukoha, of course, has been involved with issues around the ETLS, that's the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Treaty. It's also been involved with AFTA, that's the African Free Continental Trade Area Agreement, and was also on the committee set up on the heels of the closure of the borders involving 3 countries. So, Ken Ukoha, right time to reopen the borders, or are there nagging issues?
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Honorable Minister, for laying the entire introductory aspect. Essentially, for also putting down factually the causative factors that led to the closure of the borders. Perhaps you may permit me to say that in addition to what the Honorable Minister has said, is that all of us in ECOWAS committed within the context of the treaty, Article 25 of the ECOWAS Treaty, to ensure the protection of the livelihoods of the farmers and food security of the nations, our member states. And of course, by the time you expand on this, you'll also find what we call the rice offensive policy. And if you take a look at that rice offensive policy, it is a policy that emanated from the African Union under the CADAP and then trickled down to ECOWAP, which is our regional common agriculture policy. And it states that there is need for every member state of ECOWAS to commit to ensuring the reduction on importation of rice, which is a huge, which is having a huge import bill on the countries. Now, having said this, what you find is rather the other way around. On the other way around, in the sense that we have huge importation of these commodity, including poultry products and other substandard products into the country. And where it pains us is that many of the farmers are not therefore protected. Livelihoods and food security, these are thrown away. So the essence of Nigeria closing that border came in the light of this particular, aspect of our integration process within the context of ETLS. And Kingsley, you also understand that almost about 71% of our products that are traded under the ETLS are agro-produce. Within the context of the ETLS, within our regional integration. Therefore, if Nigeria has invested so much in agriculture, essentially in this commodity that we talked about, right, and then smugglers through the 2 borders, through the 2 neighboring countries, keep on inflicting injury upon injury upon these policies, upon those investments that Nigeria has been making, then it came to a point where Nigeria ought to have looked at the other content of the treaty, which is, in this regard, Article 41 of the treaty, which says that you can, upon notification of ECOWAS and upon notification of member states, close your border. That treaty also went ahead to talk about drugs, which the Honorable Minister talked about, and then extended it to health issues. For instance, when we had Ebola, you can, as a member state, close your border. Today, we have COVID. You can, on that premise, also close your border. If it is, on the importation of, ozone-depleting substances, you can close your border. If it is on the importation of toxic materials and waste, you can close your border. And I was of the feeling that the government would have expanded on all of this as reasons, rationale, justification for closure of the border. But, it appears some of these things were kept at the back. And that's why many people now begin to attack Nigeria from outside to say, oh, Nigeria closed the border. But I felt that we should have also looked at the treaty to tell them, look, this is exactly what we did in consonance with the provisions of our treaty. Now, stepping from there.
But you have been part of the negotiations. Why didn't you raise up this
No. That's where I'm heading to. Stepping from there. We had a meeting in Ouagadougou on this. We have been having tripartite meeting with, as members of the ECOWAS task force. We convened Nigeria, Benin Republic, and Niger Republic on this matter when they reported. However, other countries like Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire triggered the expansion of the discussions. And of course, the heads of state mandated the head of state of Burkina Faso to call for an enlarged meeting. And we went to Ouagadougou to discuss this matter. And 2 days we were having no breakthrough. But then we raised a 15 points, if you like, tabulation of the issues why Nigeria had to close the border. And then we asked, what has happened? We discovered at the end of that meeting, I think it was about 4 or 5 days meeting, at the end of that out of the 15, there were about 13 of the points that had already started working out. And let me take you back a little. Nigeria and Niger and Benin have been having series of memorandum of understandings for over 10 years on this same subject. None of these were kept, to a point that Nigeria had to even put her hands in her pocket, buy vehicles donated to these countries, Benin Republic and Niger Republic, yet they never kept to the agreements, never monitored this. On the status of the interstate road transit protocol, what happened? In line with Article 46 of the treaty, we always saw that was breached at all times. That protocol demanded that if goods are coming to Nigeria as the final destination and it was cleared in Benin Republic, the Custom Administration of Benin Republic would escort these goods with the seal unbroken and then hand over at the border of Nigeria to the Custom Administration of Nigeria as it is. However, consistently, once goods land in Benin Republic and they are targeted to Nigeria, these goods on the way will be broken. The seal will be broken. They will not be escorted by the customs. Then the smugglers will along the way now dismantle everything and offload and load and transit and put a lot of things that are prohibited, a lot of substandard items, a lot of smuggled items, and then all of these will find their ways into Nigeria's space. And what I feel we should be doing at this point should have been, before the closure, the reopening of the border, what have we been able to do? We need the documentation. of what has transpired between the day, the 20th of August, that these borders were closed, and now. Let's have a clear documentation of actions taken, the processes, the impacts, the lessons learned, the costs and the benefits to the country. We want all of this very clear. The reason why I'm saying this is because this outlives this administration. Tomorrow, if there is a Pharaoh that knew not Joseph, what happens? We will not have anything, reference material to lay our hands upon. And that's why we are calling on the government to come up with a report, a comprehensive report that encapsulates all of this. Present it to the public. Nigeria will see it, ECOWAS will see it, all the member states will see it, even the African Union will see it, because we are moving into the African Continental Free Trade now. What is the assurance that what happened, that were the constitutive factors, would not, rear their ugly head again? That's the point I'm making. The second point is, are there things that we have done right now in terms of sanction, for instance, of airing border officials, like customs officials, unscrupulous ones? There are beautiful ones, there are wonderful ones, I must tell you. What about those who have been aiding the smuggling? What about those who have been aiding the movement of substandard items, prohibited items into the country? What about those who have been conniving and conspiring with, our traders? What do we do? There are other things that I need to talk about when we come in.
When Mr. President met with some of the governors, earlier on, to intimate them about the possibility of reopening the borders, he said, and I think the spokesperson, Guy Bashehu, also emphasized it, and I want to quote, he said that the message had sunk in. The message had sunk in to the neighboring countries.
I think that the message have sunk in the sense that Nigeria has, thrown the had thrown the shot, and they have really seen that Nigeria can be serious. However, and I must say this, there are two outstanding things out of the 15 points that I mentioned earlier. Two outstanding things that are very monumental, very critical, quite fundamental, and these are: one, the registration of Nigeria customs into the SIGMA. SIGMA is a technology created by ECOWAS to ensure that every custom administration among the member states, 15 member countries, see themselves online, so that you track goods movement anywhere they are. You are seeing them, so that custom officials will also not put their fingers in dirty deals. Number two, which is the other one, is the destruction of warehouses that are dotted along the corridors and the buffer zones. Why is this important? I was the one that raised this matter because we have done surveillance, and I discovered that these, some of these, in fact, most of these warehouses are owned by great people. And these are areas where the smuggling happens. These are warehouses where they keep all of these goods. In fact, most times, the weapons that move. I was talking with, discussing with the former minister of trade in Ghana yesterday, Ghana TV, on this same matter of Nigeria border opening. And then they were, hammering Nigeria, talking against Nigeria. And I said, look, my brother, first is that Nigeria does not have direct borderline with Ghana. Take note of that. Number two is that when you are talking about insecurity, you do not know who next it will be. Today, Nigeria is being troubled. Mali, Niger Republic, Burkina Faso, and Burkina Faso shares border with Ghana. Therefore, those who are staying on ivory places should avoid throwing stones in the market. Now, what am I saying? The fact is this, that there have been cases where we have small arms and light weapons coming in from Ghana. And I want to be quoted from Ghana. In fact, it was on their TV one time, I think about just not up to a year now, that soldiers and policemen that went on peacekeeping operation in Middle East, in one of the countries over there, were moving in arms into the country. And these arms were not staying within, they were selling them to other countries. It might be Nigeria.
All right, Kenoko, thank you very much for your elaboration. Let's also bring in the Director General of NACIMA, Ambassador Ayo Olukome. We earlier introduced him, and I'm sure he's been soaking up all the points that have been raised by both the Minister of Finance and Dr. Kenoko, who is President of National Association of Nigerian Traders. Ambassador Ayo Olukome, well, of course, we heard the voices of NACIMA and LCCI in the early days of the closure saying that, look, the border closure was hurting your members, but 16 months down the line, the borders have been reopened. In your opinion, what has been learned, and is this the right time to reopen the borders?
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley, and I want to thank NTA for inviting NACIMA, and I also want to thank the Honorable Minister for the elaboration and what Dr. Okoa has also said. Like you said right from the beginning, you are one of those who said that, look, this is not right. Consistently, we stood by the fact that we must reopen these borders for various reasons. We are a very major player in the West African sub-region. And of course, not only that, even in Africa too as well. But a lot of water has since passed through the bridge. When the Honorable Minister alerted that her committee has made recommendation for the opening of these borders, we said, well, this is good. This is good. Please let us have it.
Well, it looks like we're having a freeze there with the connection. Ambassador Ayo Olukome, please continue if you can hear us.
Am I still on?
Yes.
Yes, you are back on.
Well, anyway, the point is that, and so we were glad when it was reopened. But the point is that what are the lessons learned? And especially we need to have a full report in terms of what are the lessons learned. And we are saying this against the background of our readiness in terms of the AFCTA is concerned. We agree that one of the things we said was that the reopening of the border is one of the very important strategic options in terms of the efforts to come out of recession quickly. And this has been done. But beyond that, like we said, what happened? What are the things which went wrong? What are the gains? And that's why we are saying that let us have a full report, a proper analysis, so that we can, in our moving forward, like Dr. Okoa said, that we don't suddenly find ourselves closing these borders again. And we're saying that against the background of the fact that we are getting ready for the AFCTA, which is very, very important for us. And that's why we are saying that we cannot be going back and forth, and that's where we're saying that it is necessary for us to have a full report and also sit down with government for a proper analysis of the gains and what are the problems as far as the question of closing of the land borders are concerned. This is very important. Good development, it has been reopened, but in moving forward, we need to learn lessons from it so that we will not go back again to this kind of event. Because many of our members are also asking questions. What exactly have we learned? I hope we will not go back. So this is a brief reaction as far as this is concerned. Welcome development, very important in terms of strategic options of getting out of recession. But the question of sustainability of reopening of the border is key and very important, so that we don't go back to say no, we are locking down again as far as the borders themselves are concerned. This is my immediate reaction as far as this is concerned, and we'll be able to at least work closely with all stakeholders to ensure that we sustain those borders reopen. And of course, because trade across our borders is a very, very important part of our agenda, both nationally as well as also for members of NASIMA too as well. Many of who are also involved, in the question and issues of exporting their goods. But before I leave, let me also quickly say that an important part of it is also the question of the fact that the security agencies will ensure that these borders are effectively patrolled, effectively policed. And it is very important. It's part and parcel of the component of the reopening of the border. It's not that we reopen and then of course, we also have a side blown in terms of we know what happens as far as the Nigerian borders themselves are concerned. So that is a component part of this policy position as far as reopening is concerned, that effectively, truly, the security agencies do their work to block all the loopholes.
Ambassador Ayo Olukomi. Let's also bring in Chief Eric Umofia, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Erisco Foods Limited, joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Chief Umofia, the NBS released, according to the report it released, prices of food, went up by 18.3%, and of course inflation by 14.9%. And this is one of the reasons being given as for the reopening of the border. What's your view on this, and what has been your experience with the border closure?
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, all of you. I have all was said, and I'm aligned with others at some point. Some want to deviate more with due respect. As a matter of fact, when the border closure was announced, we are all happy, believing that after the closure, we are going to come with the reports, plans and programs so that I have meal made in Nigeria, eat made in Nigeria according to present directive, manufacture what to eat and eat what to have. But from the look of things and how things were printed within the closure, even the NTA, you called me last manufacturer that manufacture the food you eat, that manufacture clothes you wear, manufacture your office equipment. You don't look at that. That's the same way the Nigerian economy is programming the manufacturers in this country. And it's very bad. When you are talking of anything real sector, I think we should be giving support in every area, especially indigenous manufacturers in this country. The inflation ought to have been more than that even. Even for the fact that we indigenous are helping to cut it down. How can you manufacture a product and you are not getting support? That people are not eating your own product, they want foreign ones, and they expect government to do miracle, expect us to do miracle. Even the system itself is not helping us to manufacture. I think the border closure, when opening, should have been better fortified. When manufacturer has no special allocation, we have no genuine list of manufacturers in this country yet. Foreign is here. I think they should establish who are genuine manufacturers in this country, so that if government have any support, they will now look for the people who are genuine to give. Not every manufacturer. Yet we are having the same problem we're having. I've been saying 4 years ago, 5 years ago. We need to support manufacturers and indigenous manufacturers for that matter. First, before that, we welcome everybody. This country is part of the world, no doubt. But whereby we are being relegated to the rest and giving so-called foreigners with foreign investment, they will come here and pretend to us they are manufacturers, they are investors, they are coming with their money, yet go to a bank, see billions of naira they are borrowing. Then I went to dictionary to look what is the meaning of foreign investor. Is it carry their portfolio to come here and invest and carry our money, or bringing your money? They don't bring any money. Another what they are doing is documented the money bringing. When they want to move this money out, it's easy for them. So now I think today, after 16 months of border closure, Honorable Minister is there. She should help this nation to establish proper manufacturers and support them. Without manufacturing in this country, agriculture is number one, I agree. Anything in agriculture must be processed to make more money. Our cashew, our cuckoo are not processing here. What are we talking about? We don't need, I heard somebody say trade. Trade is okay. Trade is from what you manufacture. We don't need to come out of it. We don't even need to enter recession. If at all, we supported manufacturing. You may interest Honorable Minister to know that up to 40, close to 40% of factories in this country at any moment of the time are not working, not producing, because of lack of support of finance, because of lack of support of finance in terms of foreign exchange and local manufacturing and local support, in terms of government policies. And we want all this country to be also of us. We want it to move forward. And we are talking for Nigerians to hear, to authority to hear. And presidency himself is supporting clearly, but the system of implementation is what is the problem. Unless and of course we come to ourselves and say, this opportunity we have given Nigerians opportunity to make more made in Nigeria. We make here made in Nigeria so that by the time we open the border, everywhere is Nigerian product. Why are they fighting our economy? When we close our border, they are fighting us, taking paracetamol for our own headache, because this Nigeria is gold mine for them. We are misusing our opportunities, and we have people that will help us to create this economy to grow, which is Nigerian people. But we renegade Nigerian people. We don't want to care for them. We are looking for people that will deceive us so that they will continue packing our money. After 2 years, if they claim they bring $1 million, after 2 years, they are taking in $5 million every year, $10 million every year, and the economy is being wounded every day. That's why year in year, as well, despite the effort the government is making, I do kudos to President Buhari's system on how to revive the economy and how to work in agriculture. But what is going on now is yet me, real manufacturer, practical manufacturer, go to market, see my products. I have not gotten any support. That's why I even say I don't need any local support again. So it will not be that because I want to get more money. That's why I'm talking. Please do not give me. Give other Nigerians who want this country to move forward. A lot of problems in the villages, in our areas, more beggars are multiplying every day. And the security we are talking about, without manufacturing, you can't have correct security. If you like, buy tons of zone administration in anywhere. Country world over, the first security is to streamline, straighten their factories to produce well. People will be busy thinking on how to move their factory forward, and forget about Boko Haram, forget about insurgency, forget about criminality. But here we continue to give them room. If 40% of daily time is not producing, then what are we doing? I have not produced more than 20% of my capacity since inception, and we want more company to come. If company come and for example, CBN can adjust rates, no problem. You adjust rate, you have loan of foreign loan of $18,000 before, now it's $360, now it's $400. How do we expect the factory in Nigeria to succeed? Then people are closing down every day, going to joining manufacturing, joining importation. I think the practical aspect of policy of financial institutions in this country, not government. Government is doing well. Financial is manufacturing substitution, not import substitution. Don't mind what they're telling you. If I cannot have any product to buy my spare parts, to buy my raw material, then why am I working? Why am I here? Why must I employ more people? So it's difficult for us. We pay, for example, we pay 1.6 million naira to bring a container from Apapa Port to about 30 kilometers from Ikeja where I am. How can it work? If the same thing go over, even at that, you spend 3 weeks to bring a container. So you find out we work in a year, we work only 3 months, 4 months, and we pay salary for the whole 12 months, plus bonuses and other things. So please, I think this honorable minister, he have listening here. I want you to look into this issue of manufacturing. If this country wants to move forward without manufacturing, after it's coming. Let's see April. If border opening will give us good or not. Nobody can say it now. Because if I can produce the same goods as 10 naira and it's produced in China or other places as 4 naira, 2 naira, how can they come here and say 6 naira? How can I do? And the same bank will come back and tell you, I'm not seeing your bank. Well, then the same bank are forgetting to know that they are the same people that makes you not to meet up your target. When customers say, I cannot buy from you, one product are being overpriced because of manufacturing local. Because of the manufacturing local, they import it cheaper to sell cheaper. And they insist you must pay your loan. So if I can take loan and there's accident by government policy, and the government did not defend me, why am I taking loan? That's why I said for the past few years now, I don't want any loan again. I expand according to my capacity. And I wish that people were taking well, no problem. But with this type of system, people are closing shops to go join importation, which is not good for this nation. It should be the other way around.
Chief Eric Umofia would like to interject at this time. You've made your point, and I think your point is understood. We'll come back to you later on in the course of the conversation. I just wanted Ambassador Olukoni to speak to an issue, because his initial comment seemed briefing with the hope of further elaborating on it. One of the arguments made by some of your members, whether they were in the local chapters or at the national level, was that the border closure was hurting the importation of raw materials and other semi-finished goods, which would have facilitated production in country, that's to say in Nigeria. And there was also the argument that, and since the West African sub-region relies largely on goods produced in Nigeria, your members were unable to export the goods which they had produced in country to receivers elsewhere on the West African coast. Did these arguments pan out in the last 16 months that the borders remain closed, if you were to account, for instance, for the lockdown under COVID-19? Or were your members crying wolf at the time? Ambassador Ayo Olukoni, did you get my question?
Yes, I think I got your question. Certainly, since the border closure itself, it was double sword in a way, two ways. It affected some of many. Yes, I did. I got your question, Kingsley, and I'm trying to answer it. The border closure, of course, had two effects. Many of our members who are producing and exporting, of course, were affected. And also some of them who also had to bring in some some raw materials from outside were also affected. So it was necessary for us to have to strike a balance in terms of what to be done. And that was one of the reasons why we are saying that, indeed, as far as the question of the border closure itself is concerned, we have to take a more strategic approach to it. And that was why, at a particular point, we were engaged with government in terms of the discussions of how to have an arrangement which will not affect our members in terms of both production as well as exporting their goods. Because the whole question of manufactured goods, some of them, for example, we have members who were producing bar soap, and many of them, after production, could not export those bags. So these are manufactured goods, which also goes across the West African states, the West African countries too as well. And we were seeing that a lot of them were being affected, and that's why we were saying that at the end of the day, it is the important thing to do now is to do a proper analysis of this border closure. What were the lessons learned? How do we go forward in terms of the question of sustainability as far as the border closure is affected, so that people will not be negatively affected as far as this is concerned? That is very, very important. And I'm sorry to come back again to your question of AFCTA. This is an existential reality for us. Nigeria is key and very important as far as this is concerned, and that is why we must have what we refer to as this, a very, very good analysis of it, and also to get ourselves ready, because it will be very sad if we want to get ourselves ready. And many of our members are being encouraged as far as the production and manufacturing itself is concerned in such a way. And I'll give you a good example. We have some members who are positioning. They produce coffee. They produce, real coffee. I'm not talking about Nest coffee. And when we visited, we were saying that they said they cannot satisfy the internal market, but now they are working to satisfy the internal market. But not only that, they're also looking at, of course, the future in terms of the AFCTA as it is concerned. And that's why they've gone to acquire land in some part of Ogun State to expand and be able to take advantage of the FCTA. And I also give a good example of the Nsukka yellow pepper. About 300 farmers who are there through the Nsukka Chambers of Commerce have been put together in terms of production of the Nsukka yellow pepper, in terms of to take advantage of the export as far as the Nsukka yellow pepper itself is concerned. So in getting us...
Ambassador Ayo Lukami, thank you. We'll return to you in a moment. Let's bring in the Honorable Minister of Finance, who, of course, we will soon have to let go. Honorable Minister, I'm sure you want to respond to the issues Chief Larisco and Dr. Ken Ukoha said earlier on, but also with you, is there any binding and enforceable agreement now between the countries involved?
And let me start from that last point that you raised before I respond to the issues of the requirement to publicize the report, the detailed report of the assessment of the border closure. During this process, we have had several engagements with different international stakeholders. And what we put to our neighbors and the reason for the closure and also the what needed to be attained for the opening of the border is that we required Benin and Niger republics to adhere to the ETLS protocols, that the World Trade Organization rule of origin on goods must be respected, and that the Nigerian government will no longer tolerate repackaging of third-party products or re-exporting them into Nigeria, that all warehouses along the buffer zones should be dismantled, including legal filling stations. And to this point, I can say on the side of Nigeria, this was done. On the side of our neighbors, it was partly done. And they have a commitment to make sure also this is complied to. But also packaging and of goods must conform to acceptable standards, and goods in transit, as indicated earlier on, must be escorted to the designated border points by the customs officials and security officials and handed over to the Nigerian officials. So these are some of the things that we've been able to elicit from our neighbors as commitments, which they have promised to comply with. And like I said earlier on, we still have this tripartite border patrol teams of the three countries. They will still be working together and will continuously monitor the reports of the monitoring that they are doing. The reports of the assessment of the impact of the border closure, the reason why the border was closed, what has been achieved, including details of goods that have been seized, people that have been apprehended, is encapsulated in the detailed report of the committee. So what we'll do is, I have the report is actually published, but we will place it on the website of the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, the Customs, and also we'll also ask our colleagues to publish it on their website so that it will be easy for the public to obtain, because it won't be easy to have everyone have a copy of the printed report. So it's a detailed report. What we released to the public was just a summary, but there is a detailed assessment of even the disciplinary actions that have had to be taken on officers that have been found wanting during these drills. Some officers have gone through the disciplinary process of their own organizations. I know that the Nigerian Customs Office has had to even dismiss some officers. There are some that are going to go through trials as a result of activities that they had undertaken that was found negative to the assignments that they have been given to do.
On the support of manufacturers, Honorable Minister, just before you go, Chief Erisco raised the issue of manufacturers and lack of support to indigenous manufacturers to be able to meet up with the demand for, food items and manufacturing of other products.
Mr. Erisco, I hear you loud and clear. It means from the response that you're providing that perhaps what we've done is not enough, but there are a pocket of funding and quite reasonable concessionary funding at 5% that have been set up for manufacturers to access. We hear reports of difficulties or challenges by manufacturers in accessing this financing. On the part of government, that's through the monetary authority, through the central bank intervention financing efforts. But on the part of government, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is currently providing grants to very small businesses that we call, under a scheme that we call a survival fund. So it's grants that is helping industry, small businesses to pay salaries, but also to be able to reinvest in their businesses. But these are very small businesses. For the medium size and the large businesses, we're asking them to access the loans that are provided through NIRSA and through the Central Bank of Nigeria. The CBN is using the development finance institutions, for example, BOI to give out some of these facilities, but also Bank of Agriculture and in a lot of cases, commercial banks. So we have to step back and look at what is happening in terms of access to those financing, who is accessing them and who is unable to access them and the reasons why they're not able to access them. So if it is the demand for collateralization that they need to meet that is tedious, we will now have to engage the monetary authorities to relax some of these measures so that more and more of these businesses access financing.
All right, on that note, we'd like to thank you, Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Hajia Zainab Ahmed. We thank you for your time with us on the program this morning. And indeed, for the other guests, at the beginning we had said that we had two topics. So we're going to have to take a short break now, and before we get on to the second topic. It's a very important issue, that's to say the border reopening, and I'm sure going forward we'll have the opportunity of returning to the same subject matter. On that note, Ambassador Ayo Olukoni, who is Director General of NASIMA, joined us via Zoom from Lagos. We appreciate your comments. And Chief Eric Umofia Erisco also joined us via Zoom. We'd like to appreciate you for being with us on the program this morning. And here in the Abuja studios, a deep thanks to Dr. Ken Ukoha, lawyer and president of the Nigerian Association of Nigerian Traders. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
You'll be, of course, monitoring the situation to see what the gains are or if there's any drawback in the reopening of our borders. It's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with gas matters.
Close Up Deep Action with antibacterial formula and deep cleaning gel keeps your teeth clean and protected. Close Up Deep Action. Enjoy long-lasting fresh breath and more.
My name is Nando Jamda
Muhammad.
Stedita
Hussein Musa. Roduna Joel Chinji. Said Musa. John.
I'm a carpenter. I've been doing this for more than 8 years now.
And I said of plantain. Nakai Kimami Shekara.
I've been selling my tomatoes for about 10 years now, and I do it for a better Nigeria.
And I do it for a better Nigeria.
Ina wannan sana'ar lemu ne domin Nigeria ta ci gaba. Ina sa domin Nigeria ta kyau. And you can see we're doing our small little work to make Nigeria great.
As you can see, I'm a technician and I'm doing it to help myself and to help my generation.
Ina zaune ne a Plateau na business. Kuma ina yin wannan domin ci gaban ƙasar Najeriya.
For a better Nigeria. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
don't wait for life. You go to meet life. It's not about how many chances you get. It's what you do with what you've got. Cup after cup. Morning after morning. Start strong. Finish strong. It all starts with a Nescafe.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we are reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. The integrated gas handling facility of the Nigerian Petroleum Development Company, a subsidiary of the NNPC, is designed to deliver some 200 million standard cubic feet of gas to the domestic market, and this is in conformity with the federal government's gas utilization agenda. Now, joining us via Zoom from Warri in Delta State is Dr. Louis Brown Obefun, who is a former Pengasson president and convener Save Nigeria Oil and Gas Industry Initiative. Dr. Obefun, delighted to have you with us on the program this morning. Looks like there's some snowfall in the Warri there, and so the signal is freezing. Claire?
And all
yes,
right.
I'm sure once that is cleared up, we'll see.
You know, this is a major, I think it's one of a very laudable development in terms of, if we consider the contribution to the auto gas or auto fuel policy of the federal government, and it's an initiative that I think started since 2018.
Yeah, that's right. Claire, I understand that almost immediately the snowfall in Warri has dried up, Dr. Obefun. So the freeze that we had a moment ago is off. Once again, we like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, and you gave us an indication of what the integrated gas handling facility is all about.
Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, NTA, and thank you for having me. I think the internet connectivity was an issue, but I do hope you are hearing me loud and clear. I didn't hear the part of the statement that was made, but I want to believe that you're talking about you asked for what the integrated gas handling facility is all about. First, if that's correct, let me start just to have a preamble before I go into that, and I hope we'll be able to have time to do that. I need to first of all congratulate the NNPC and indeed the federal government, especially the federal government, for not abandoning the projects that other successive governments had, or which their predecessors had before them. Usually, this is a total departure from we want to take credit of what we started and completed. And that is, we need to be able to give them this credit. We have seen it in railway transformation. We're also seeing it in gas policy initiative. Please recall that for decades, Nigeria could not really maximize or utilize its huge gas resource base, which currently stands at over 202 trillion cubic feet of proven gas reserves. And if we have all the necessary infrastructure, we could take another 600 trillion cubic feet of undiscovered gas potentials, which is huge. So let me now go to what the integrated gas handling facility is all about. First, let us know that gas is said to be 3 times cleaner than oil, chemically less complex, with combustion that generally results in less pollution. I'm super thrilled because this is a project of a local content implied solution. And we are talking about MPDC, which is a subsidiary of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. Why am I thrilled, or why should Nigerians feel thrilled about this? The engineering works of the integrated gas handling facility was carried out 100% in Nigeria by Nigerians. All site construction, fabrication, and installation was performed 100% by Nigerians. We all know that Europeans, for instance, are saying that they want to ban the use of fossil fuel from 2040. Sweden, for instance, says by that year it wants to have 100% renewable fuel. And by 2025 or thereabout, I think Norway is saying that it's committed to zero emission vehicles. Therefore, the IGHF is a bridge to that gap and to the part of so many countries using natural gas utilization and other renewable energies to kickstart reduction in carbon emissions. What are we talking about here? It is the Oredo Integrated Gas Handling Facility located in Oredo Field of Mining Lease 111 in Olobo community in Edo State, with the LPG dispensing unit about 800 meters from Benin to Warri Expressway. The Oredo Integrated Gas Handling Facility is a waste-to-wealth facility that converts flare gas to valuable LPG, propane and pentane. And within this period, you had about 350 skilled and unskilled personnel at the construction stage. You have additional 100 persons and so on and so forth. So what does this mean? The facility will enable MPDC or indeed the NNPC to export lean gas produced from Oredo field. Then you have sales of LPG extracted from the produced rich gas. So I think these are, in summary, what the integrated gas handling facility is all about.
Okay, Dr. Ogbeifon, you know, what is on the lips of every Nigerian at the moment is the auto gas and, of course, domestic gas penetration. What's the relationship between this and that?
Well, first, the Oredo field, like we said, for instance, is going to be delivering about 200 million standard cubic feet of gas to the domestic gas market. From Oredo there, it intends to also achieve this by delivering the massive gas infrastructure blueprint and improve domestic gas utilization to 5 billion standard cubic feet per day by 2022. So if this is true, the question of what is in it for Nigerians is like also asking for what is it for Nigeria as a whole. Now, at full operational capacity, that plant will be able to dispense about 330 tons of LPG per day, which is going to about 16 standard of 20 tons LPG trucks. In addition, you have about 345 tons per day of propane, which with a projected revenue of about $107 million per year. And that will be about 2,600 barrels per day of condensate, of which 800 of it is pentane, and that is valued at $32.85 million per year from that facility. So Nigerians will ask, what does this mean for me? Propane, which is known as LPG sometimes, is commonly used for space and heating, for cooking, as well for engine applications such as forklifts, farm irrigation engines, fleet vehicles, buses. However, its applications are rapidly growing due to new technological developments. So when used as fuel in vehicles, propane is known as propane autogas. So from the plant, pentane will also be extracted as a component of natural gas. What does that also mean? It has numerous industrial uses. Primarily, pentane is used to create a blowing agent, which is then used to create a foam known as polystyrene, used to make insulation material for refrigerator and heating pipes. So what does that mean for every Nigerian? It means that, for instance, you're going to have LPG plants and retail businesses littering the space. Its use in agriculture is humongous, just like we have said. And also recall that the gas that will also be produced can be used to generate about 367 megawatts of power per day, equivalent of gas. And when you take that naira or dollar component, that is about $75 million of gas sales per year. Maintain provides great environmental benefit, producing more heat and light, energy. So it means that energy is likely going to be available for our people, especially for those who are within the Oredo environment. And then, of course, it's going to produce this as against the fossil fuel we are going to be using. Remember, I did say that most countries are going to be exiting fossil fuel by 2040. And the revenue from LPG sales is estimated at about 26.8 billion naira per year. And the propane revenue estimated at about 38.52 billion naira per year. So NPDC as a company, which is by extension the NMPC, will be at a vantage position to produce, to generate revenues in excess of about 300 million per year. But like we said, for Nigerians, one of the key things that it can do, first you have LPG businesses, both retail, and of course those who want to also do the business in wholesale basis will need to get the proper orientation and applications through the necessary quotas. A large number of our youth, especially from the communities, are going to be empowered, which even as at now, those who started the projects, especially the youth from the community, were engaged in pipe fitting, welding, scaffolding, iron bending, and carpentry, many other things like that within the place. So the Skills Acquisition Center, which of course MPDC has as a logo, is also very key as byproducts of some of these things.
Okay.
So as time goes on, therefore, Nigerians.
Dr. Ogbefun, but there are some points that I would like you to also speak to. I mean, the benefits or advantages of this gas handling facility have been articulated by you, and that's to be appreciated. The fact that it's been in pursuit also of local content development. But you know, for the benefit of some of our viewers, when you are saying something million cubic feet, people don't have a mental picture of exactly what you are saying. Well, no, gas is gas. Like petrol or diesel, for instance. So let's just give an example. I mean, if you say it can evacuate so many tankers of gas, and we all see gas tankers on the road, you are going to evacuate maybe 10 tankers every day, and that goes on. Which raises the issue of, look, how do you evacuate the products that have been handled at the gas facility? Do you have a pipeline network already in that location or in other parts? We hear of AKK, which is a Jakarta, Kaduna, Kano gas pipeline, but we haven't heard around this Oredo gas facility now. And you're talking about the Warri Expressway. I hope, I mean, you've been on that road recently, and whether you can still describe it as an expressway with the attendant risk of accidents and therefore fires, such as you have on the Oltedola Bridge very frequently. Where there will be the complementary work that needs to be done to ensure that produce or products from the facility do get to the market.
Thank you so very much. I quite appreciate this, but for want of time, let me break it down and take about 3 components of what I mean when it comes to the advantages for the common man. When we say you have about 330 tons of LPG per day, for instance, that's equivalent to about 16 standard of 20 tons of LPG trucks that will be dispensing, all right, if taken onto gas businesses within Benin and its environment. It has a projection of about 26,400 cylinders of 12.5 kg, for instance, daily to the homes, especially of Benin and its environment. And then we do hope that it is also going to force down the price of gas. Having said this, yes, you're very correct when you talk about the pipelines and so on and so forth. Let us take it down. Usually, gas is better taken through pipeline networks. And the federal government and indeed the NMPC in these projects have done a lot, therefore, to be able to deliver these infrastructures to Nigerians through the pipelines. When you talk about the expressway and its attendant hazards, for instance, most of these pipes are not going to be at the surface level. And we do hope that Nigerians will also respect the pipe of way so that they don't look for what is inside the pipelines. Now, what has been done, therefore, you find out that the Escravos to Lagos pipeline system 2, Obiafo, Obinkom, Oben, Opai Independent Power, and Azura Power Plant, and all that. You have the ODD project, for instance, which also have a capacity to produce almost 80 million standard cubic feet. So all these pipelines, whichever way they are laid, are not going to be surface driven, and of course they are new and not likely to be susceptible to very easy puncture, as we have seen with the crude lines.
All right, Dr. Louis Brown Ogbefon, that's very heartwarming to hear from you. We will keep an eye on that. You can rest assured of that. I would like to thank you for joining us via Zoom from Warri, and of course, Dr. Louis Brown Ogbefon is former Pengaston president and convener, Save Nigeria Oil and Gas Industry Initiative. And that's it. And Good Morning Nigeria for today. Do join us again same time tomorrow for another edition. I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. Do have a nice day.